really close up. And it goes back to 2013 is when I made the conscious decision of shooting small. And shooting small included a lot of close-ups of flowers. And then I went into macro. And the reason I turned my camera around is, let's see if we can do this. This is playing from the hip here. There we go. This was really my first macro gig equipment. It's a 100mm lens and just your basic camera, right? My 5D. And how I ended up, how I do these, I'm going to shove that back over there and put this up in my face. And this is probably the best way. I had the camera mounted on a tripod, and I was going to do that, except I ran out of tripods. And I would have my, let's see if we can do this, have my subject anywhere from here to way out. And some of the items I used to shoot, and most of you can relate to this, is it was so close that the hood was in the way. So that was it. But what I was sitting on, I did a lot of, back to there, studio work on this. And can I lighten that up a bit? I can't because of my light on. I'll get a better picture of that in a few seconds. But the camera used to, I didn't have rails, which you can take and you can mount the camera to, and you just turn the knob and it moves the camera forward and back. At that point in time, I didn't know what a rail was. I just wanted to shoot close up. And so what I had to do was get my subject out here and then just step by step change. You can't see me changing it, but what I'm doing is moving the focus point forward and backward. And it was shoot, click, or I should say shoot, focus, shoot, focus, shoot, focus, shoot, focus. And most of you know that's what I was doing as far as stacking. Now, that's a whole nother animal in the part of macro photography. Is if you're going to shoot macro, most of it is going to be stackable stuff, because the focal depth is sometimes, I think I've shot them down to where they're 250 micromillimeter, which is 1,000th of an inch. And 250 would be 1/4 of a millimeter. And you have to do that. So and you know, if you shoot 60 of them, most of the club knows, most of the members know about stacking and getting those all lined up, and I'll touch on the hardware later. And I had a device to show you, which I can't find now. There it is. Right there, and I'm going to get it out there. Our good old quarter. Now, if I'm not going to ask for people to raise their hands, but most of you, some of you, hopefully have read Harold's 2 articles on the macro on his blog website, and that's a quarter. That's the size, height-wise, of a full-frame camera. And when you start shooting, and let's see if I can get the pull from macro. Right there. And I'm going to move this into the frame. Can everybody see that? Rick?
Yeah, we can see it now, Robert.
Okay. This was shot at about a 45-degree angle. The coin was at a 45-degree angle. And if you see on the left side, it's this is a quarter, right? And on the back side is United States of America. And if you'll see, this is my first shot, second shot, third shot, fourth shot, fell out of alignment. And I've got over here on the right-hand side, the better part of an E in focus. And so those 4 shots are about 1.5 millimeters of depth that it entailed. The zoom on this is about, I want to say about 5 to 1. Maybe, yeah, it's about 5 to 1. So it's 5 times life size, because this is an original size photo, and the quarter is from here to the other side is the 35 millimeters. So we're only talking about a fourth of the way across the quarter. So it's probably 4 to 1. 4 to 1. I'm going to.
Quick question.
Sure.
Are you focus stacking from left to right or from front to back?
It depends on the software. Sometimes my Zareen stacker will take them from bottom to top, and sometimes it'll take them from top to bottom. It's a decision by the software. It's not by me. When I'm taking pictures, my software on my rail, it depends on what I set up as my start and stop points. So the answer is nothing specific. It's whatever lines up for me to get the shot. So it doesn't have to be one or the other, okay? Let me see, I'm gonna go back to where I was going. I'm gonna disappear because I'm going to try, maybe, yeah, there we go. There's Washington's nose. That's how close I was getting. If you saw Harold's article and read Harold's article, he explained about his rulers, and I told him mine was green. These are millimeter marks. So if from top to bottom on a full frame camera is 35 millimeters. So, and I've got 1, 2, 3, 4 millimeters that's shot as close up on the system I have set up right now, and I'll get into that in a little bit. So this is very close up, and I'll save that for later. Let's see. I'm going to show you some things that you can do with macro and close up, and I'll say extreme close up is almost macro, but these, just going off the top of my head right here, these are some of the things I've shot, and this is a marble, just a regular size marble right there. Phillips head, you know that's larger in life. This is a salt crystal for ice cream. This is a business card taken up that close. So you can see how pixelated the ink is actually. That's a first place, that's a close-up of first place ribbon from the fair. Better shot there. Sunflower seed crystals. There is a first shot of, this is an actual pulled away shot of a bee that I found laying around. Then I reconfigured and shot closer, right? So His wing is about, I'm just going to say offhand, 15 millimeters. So that's 4-to-1. Most of you have seen that shot. That's a close-up, but it's not a macro shot. This is a macro shot, and this was a subject I was shooting here in the studio, and this is how I prop it sometimes. Is this was glued to a wire going across. Take my shots, and then go into Lightroom and make the wire disappear. And then I have this one little guy floating around here. And if you see down here, right here, these little vestiges of pain come out when you're stacking photos. That 3 M&Ms. This is a razor, right? A double-bladed razor. These are bugs that were laid on a plate glass sliding door in Macau. And I got to follow them day by day as they formed. And I had a camera set up, and you'll see some other pictures here of the setup. If you can see around the corner, if you can see my mouse going around the corner here, that coin is smaller than a dime, right? So that's the edge of a coin. That's how small these guys were. This was taken on with a 1:5 macro lens, the MP65, Canon MP65. And I want to make notion right here is you'll see all the clutter around the eggs. That's something that is notorious with macro, is every little piece of dust shows up. If you got light on it, it shows up, because I shoot mostly fixed light. I don't use flash for my macro. And if it picks up light, it's going to show up in the scene. So, but you know, you work at it. It's mostly cleaned up. So there we go. This is what these critters were when they were hatched. And I couldn't get any stack shots of these guys because they were moving around fairly quick in relation to how close I was. And this over here on the left are eggs that haven't hatched yet and eggs that have hatched yet. There's a family shot, more family. You can see what's happening there. Close-up shot. There's a very close-up shot. I actually think this is a crop shot. No, it's not. No, it's not. It's a CR2 shot, so that's straight out of the camera. Close-up of flower. Close-up of flower, not a macro. There's a macro that's shot at 5:1 on the window of my car several years ago. Close-up shot, sap coming down, and that is just good old baling wire. And so you can see that's about a 3:1 shot. That's enlarged 3 times. Ballpoint pen, Sharpie. This, I don't know if anybody will recognize it, but that is just something I happened on. It's a piece of Scotch tape with my fingerprint on it. I go, wow, that's neat. And I can shoot that flat. I didn't need to do any stacking on it. So that's the width of your regular Scotch tape, close up. Electronics, here's, this is what I played with the next shot. I took that and then I made several copies of it. A lot of people ask what that is. That's a zip tie, close up. This is smaller than a 4x4 post that was sitting outside Moxie Java years ago, and I walked by and I saw that, and I went home and got the camera, and I come back and shot the end grain of a 4x4 post. And in there is a little bit of paint chip that hadn't chipped away yet. Full-blown close-up there of that. This guy was was on the 7th floor of a motel in Orlando, Florida, and this guy landed on my window to weather the storm. So we got close and personal. And what separated us was about 3 inches of air and glass. And I didn't have any problem. And there's a close-up version of it. And my match work, most of you have seen some of my match work. Here's the bug window. And if you'll see right in the center of the photograph are all the eggs there. That coin, I said, is smaller than a dime. And this was my camera, my MP65, shooting through the window. This picture was taken with my SX70 on my balcony, shooting on that side of the window. And again, there's another shot of it, and that's full close up. I think I've been there, yeah. And I just have fun with them. So you don't have to do bugs. You can do anything. I joked with Harold about something having texture. Pudding or something has texture, and even pudding has texture when you get close enough to it. So there's that. When I started doing more and more macro, I decided I'm going to get into it, and I'm going to go off camera now and try to focus and show you what I have now in my equipment. And questions are free to flow. If you think you can wait till the end of it to ask the question, that's fine if you remember. If not, just type it in, and Rick, if you think I could answer it now, have at it. So I just went out of view. I'm still here, and I'm going to make.
Haven't seen any questions in the chat, Harold. So
I'm not Harold.
Or I'm sorry,
Harold left you long ago.
Yeah. Well, we got HH and RR, so I get confused, I think. Anyway, so
Okay.
if anybody's got any questions, either type them in the chat, or you can unmute while Robert's getting everything focused up here and ready for the next little segment. Anybody got anything?
Yeah, Robert?
Yeah.
Did I hear you say that your rail was controlled electronically or by software?
That's what I'm going to step into right now, which is
okay.
why I'm off camera. You'll see what it is.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, I'll start. That's a good place to start. When I told you that I first started doing with just the 100mm and the camera without any rails, one of my first purchases were rails. The first purchase was a direct line rail. And what that did for me was allowed me to be able to refocus the camera without touching the camera. And what the rail does is instead of doing the focus on the camera, you moved the camera on the rail. And if some of you have a rail, you'll know what I'm talking about. But I'll show you the electric version of it here in just a second. And then my second set of rails was one that allowed me to move left and right and up and down. So instead of just the x-axis, now I had y and x. So that allowed me a little bit more play in shooting things like that marble. If it was out of frame, I could bring it back into frame by moving the rail left or right and not having to mess with the camera itself. Because you bump the camera, you can be millimeters off. If you've got it focus depth already set, You're going to mess that trying to move the camera a little bit to the left or a little bit to the right. And after I got, I won't say tired, and I won't say frustrated, because a lot of these photos, I kind of joke that Dan Motaz spends hundreds, probably, of hours, if not tens or dozens of hours, maybe hundreds of hours, making a shot right. And you can do that sitting in a chair in front of a table. My studio is my living room. In my studio, shooting for hours and hours and hours. And there are nights that I came away with thousands, literally thousands of photos of stacked sets. Some nights I would do 30, 40, 50 sets, and each set can be anywhere from 5 to 250 photos. So it's a patience game. So I'll show you the rail system right now and what I have, and I'll try to explain what it is as we talk. And I'm going to be real quiet for a second because I got to go shut off my air conditioner. Well, no, I'm going to leave it going. But you see the feather is floating around in the breeze from my air conditioner. But that's moot. Okay, what I'm going to do is take, hopefully, the camera and right there. And the reason I'm doing this by hand is I'm not going to get it done by hand. And there we go. I'm going to point out to the different things I've got set up here. And this is how I shoot now. Some parts of it haven't changed at all. Other parts have changed drastically, and I've invested altogether thousands of dollars in this. So let's start with my camera, full frame. This is the 60. I shoot with another 5D usually, but for what it's worth, a camera. Right here, I have a extension tube, and that does two things. One is it gives me a little bit more expansion, depth, or not depth, enlargement capability. And the second thing it does is my camera will not fit on this piece right here, which is a bellows that extends my focus thing there. And that's it's called Novoflex. I have to write all of this stuff down because I'm getting old and I can't remember stuff. This is a Novoflex extension tube built for Canon, and it's completely, all the contacts and everything match up, so I get signal through the bellows to my lens. Okay, that helps give me more. I can. Let me show you what I can do here. This knob, you see it scrunching down, that extends or compresses the bellows, and the longer the bellows is, the more magnification I get. And then down below, on part of the Novoflex, is also a rail system. It has a built-in rail system. It comes with it. Can't do anything about it but that. The end piece right here is my MP65 1:5. 1X is back here, 5X is there. That's what I've got it set right now. bring it in down to 1x. Now, right now, because of the bellows and the extension tube, it's magnified more than 1x. And because of the extension tube, fully, the bellows fully extended, the extension tube, and 1x on here, I'm getting about a 1 to 5 magnification. There we go. If I go all the way out to 5x, I can see about, I think I got a picture of that. And I'm going to show it to you. If I can bring it up. And that's not part of that one. I can't find it without taking too much time for it. So it's about 4 millimeter across. So 4 into 35 millimeter is a little less than 1/10 of, so that's about 10x, say 9.5x magnification. And I'll show you what I've done with that in a little bit. Now, let's readjust the camera a little bit. Okay, now Harold bought one of these, and he wished he would have bought the long one. This is the long one. It's 200 millimeters. And so it travels about 180 because of the hardware in between here. Stops it from going to full 200. But that's the amount of travel I have with my camera. I can set a start button at any point and move it to the end point. And I'll show you in just a second what I can do for that. Or I could do it manually. And there's a button, all of these wires that are coming off, there's a button I can push that will automatically, I don't know if you can see that. Yeah, if you look down on the rail, you can slowly see that rail moving forward and backwards, obviously. I could shoot a stack shot using that, but why? When I paid so much money to have this piece of equipment, which is, let's see if I can get a focus on that. Right there. That is my stack shot programming board. And what that can do, and I'm not going to play with it because it takes too long to set up. It's muscle memory you have to use. But what you can do with all of this is figure out a starting point for your stack and an ending point for your stack. And then you can lock that in and you can figure out what I've got right here on screen is what you're looking at is a live view shot from my camera. I shoot tethered to a 42-inch television screen when I'm doing tethered shooting here in the studio. And so I can find out by moving the rail, motorized rail, backwards and forward, where I want to start it and where I want to end it, and then take into consideration my regular camera settings, my f-stop, my ISO, my speed. You know, if you're shooting 1.4, f1.4 or 2.4, you're going to have a very narrow depth of field. And so you're going to need more shots to get a successful stack shot. If you're shooting f8, not as many. F22, depending on your lens, I rarely ever shoot f22, but you'll need less photos to do a stack shot then. Speed, another consideration there is, well, let's go back to just your triangle. You've got to figure out how many shots you're going to need. And sometimes it's just testing. That's what you do. You play with it, you play with it, you play with it. Something else that is annoying in this is a new apartment to me, is the floor shakes. And when the floor shakes, the camera shakes. And if you're shooting 250 shots and you're walking around the apartment, every one of those is going to have a vibration in it, which means it's going to be a little bit out of focus or blurred, if you want to go that way. So what the stack shot does is you can set it up. I don't know if you can see my mouse there or not. On the screen here, you can set it up to take a picture, close it, move it to the next position, which might be 1/4 of a millimeter or less, and then it'll stop and it'll settle. And what that will do is any shake that is left from the motor or somebody walking around, you'll know to stop, and then it will take the picture. So it has a time that it will actually settle, that you can move that along. Something else is sometimes I will shoot photos that take 2 seconds, 3 seconds, depending on my lighting, depending on the effect I want to have. And you have to adjust the timing to where you don't, it'll just flat not take a picture. If it travels, it takes longer to travel than it takes the photo to take picture, if that makes sense. I can't have there's no better way to explain it. I can't have the camera time, exposure time, taking longer than it takes to travel. And there's a setting in there for that, to where if your exposure is 2.5 seconds, then your travel time is, and your settle time is 4 seconds. So you have that time for it to settle down in, because it wouldn't, it's just designed to where it won't take that picture if it's still traveling or is still settling. So all the little tiny things that it takes to get it going. The lighting, I think I mentioned that the lighting I do, come back here. The lighting I do real time. I don't use flash, and I sometimes think I should use flash because it gives you a much more intense catch of your subject. Very little blurring there, as opposed to what I can end up with just natural lighting and blur. I'm going to take the camera and move it again and show you kind of what I do. I'll get my other camera out of the way there.
Hey, Robert. Hey, Robert. Do you ever use a light ring?
A light ring?
Yeah, on your
Yes.
around there. Okay.
Uh,
And I got another question for you too.
Sure, go ahead.
With the amount of time involved, do you run out of battery power? Or do you have an alternate source for the camera?
Part of the equipment that I use are electric batteries, AC adapters. And you can buy them on Amazon or B&H, and they're shaped just like a Canon battery in my case. Slide it in the slot, but it has a wire coming down out of it to a transformer that plugs into the wall. And that's what this camera is running on right now, because I was afraid that it would drop out while I was doing the show, because live view eats up batteries.
So it is a real issue then, is that correct? Yeah.
Yeah, it is a real, like I said, some nights if I get going on something like a flower or a dandelion bug or seed, yeah, I'll start at 10 o'clock at night and I'll go to 5 o'clock in the morning, being crazy. And yeah, I could, the big advantage to that is every time you have to replace the battery, I've got plenty of batteries. If I'm out shooting out in the wild, I've got plenty of batteries, and I take plenty of batteries with me. But every time I have to open up that door to replace the battery, I move the camera. And so if it's being fed out of a wall plug, I don't have to worry about that. And you know, live view eats up the camera, or eats up the batteries. Yeah.
Robert, I got a question along that lines. Does your setup, if you program an in point and an out point, or a closest and farthest,
Right, either or, yeah.
how many steps, then does it just run automatically? For instance, you said it might take all night. Can you just go to bed and then get up in the morning and it will have done its thing?
No. I guess if you had to schedule enough shots, yes, but usually I call them sets, like a set of 60 shots. Let's say 68 is what I used on that dandelion shot. 68 shots take 30 minutes. Right, for that one set. And if I shoot 8 sets or 12 sets or 16 sets or whatever craziness I'm gonna get into, I have to reset it or change, right? If I want to move it a little different, you know, different concept, different situation of setup. Then I run another set, or I'll do an identical set, because at some point in time I walked through the living room as it was taking a picture, and I'll show you what that can happen if you blur a photo on the in-between while it's taking it. So you're not shooting all night on one set usually. You know, you're taking, even if it's 250 photos to a set, that's only going to take 250 times 2, 500 seconds, right? Because once it starts, once you hit the go button, this system is designed to run to your start location, take a picture, move, take a picture, move, take a picture, and then if you schedule for 250 shots, it's going to take 500 seconds, which is whatever that is. So I end up taking set after set after set after set. Does that answer the question?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Now, one thing also that I see interesting is this shot that we're seeing on our screen now with your feather there.
Right.
I can see the little pieces of the feather kind of moving with the breeze.
Right.
Uh, I
And
have
that's
to think
because
there's many things that are very, very difficult to shoot
right.
because of that.
And that gets into other equipment, which is, of course, something else that everybody should buy and have in their living room is, let's see, right there. And that, of course, is the white box for diffusion, and it helps keep, watch this magic.
A light can.
You can set your box, your flower, your whatever inside there, and it's less affected by whatever you have that might disturb it. Vibration is not. Air currents, I could turn off my air conditioner. When I was shooting this feather last night, that exactly happened. I had to turn off the air conditioner so I could shoot. Something that I found out is very delicate flowers that have very tiny stems, like the size of baling wire or smaller. You go outside, you hack it off, you bring it inside, you set it in some water, and I don't care what it is, it's going to wilt. And when you've got 4 minutes a set for this flower, it's slowly wilting and tipping itself over. And by the time you end up having 60 shots of it like that, it's unusable because the flower has wilted. And nothing is going to stop that. So you either find a way to stiffen the flower, or you don't do it with it on a stem. You end up doing it with just the flower or whatever. You know, thousands of adjustments.
With that in mind, do you also have to, you're using continuous light, which
Yes.
obviously gives off a little more heat. Maybe flash would be useful in some situations because of it's just a quick burst.
When I was shooting snowflakes, I was using my ring light, which is an intense flash. It's a flash, and I only got 1 shot per snowflake because every time that flash went off, it's just a brief flash, but it still has heat and it melted the snowflake. So I like continuous light, and thank God we're smart people and we got rid of mostly incandescent. LED lighting emits a lot less light or heat than the incandescents ever did. So almost all of my lighting now is LED. And if you'll see right here, this guy is, you'll see me vibrated. This guy is a bright little puppy. He can be run on batteries, or he can be ran with, again, AC power. And I've got adapters running all over this house because everything is a 12-volt adapter now. I also have flash point, let's see, right there. And that's it. If I'm shooting like a flower and I want all front light on it, I'll hit these guys on both sides of the camera, hitting the front light. If I want to do subtle lighting from the back or whatever, I use handheld. Where did I put those? These are basically work lights that I got from, right there, not Home Depot, Costco. And these guys they're battery driven, but again, LED and they provide great light for spotlighting, right? For like portraiture, Rick, you know, portraiture. You want a soft light back here, you want a front light, maybe a hair light if you're going for 3 different sources of light. I can do that same thing right here on my little table. And let's go to the little table and back out a little bit. And this white towel that I have sitting up here is the reason I had that is so I could have some contrast behind the setup when I was explaining it to you. Here, obviously the light, my subject. Now the subject at this distance, it's about 3 inches to my nearest focus right there. So when this is traveling forward to get the far focus back here, it's moving, it'll move about 1 inch altogether. Everything back here is going to be out of focus. In fact, everything right about another inch behind is going to be out of focus because of the narrow depth of field. But I always like something to hint of a background. What I've done in the past, right now I've just got a piece of gold foil paper for this because I like the warmth that it adds to the color of the white feather. Back here, I've used this dozens and dozens of times, and what that it's just framing board paper, whatever the word for that is, and I use different colors of that. Sometimes I'll take chalk and just color a subtle coloring in there, so it breaks it up, and that's my background out of focus. It's not bokeh because it's just a background, but it breaks it up. It's just not always a plain, like so many pictures. And I have nothing against it. Sometimes just a plain black background. I won't say it's overdone because I love to do it, but sometimes I don't want that, so I use that, and that just puts a gentle hint on it of breaking up the standard. I don't know. I could go into all kinds of just little tricks that I use here in the studio. I think it's always kind of fun, right?
Robert,
Yeah.
can you talk about that light that you have on top, the overhead light? What brand is it? What kind is it?
The
Information about it.
the hard light, it's right over the feather, or the big box light?
It's a small light, and it's right above your subject.
Right. Oh, okay.
That one right there.
Okay. It's called a newer, and it's an LED 126. And like I said, it can be ran by battery. And here's another great part about it. I think you might be able to see it. Yeah, there we go. It's adjustable in its intensity. And I've got it set to where it's on one of my mini lighting tripods. So, and again, I want to say $25 or something like that was all I paid for it. Maybe a little more than that. I don't know. Sometimes I don't even look at the price. I just feel the need.
So you said it's newer. The brand is newer.
Yeah, Neewer. And it's an LED 126.
2.
And-
That's a ratio 1 to 2.
No, 126.
Oh,
Model number 126.
okay. I gotta get me one of them.
Yeah. The nice thing about it is the light is natural light. It's like 5500 K, to where my ceiling light coming down here is about 48. It's pretty brown. I guess I started to show you this. That TV to the right there, that's my 42-inch TV. That's not a monitor. It's a 42-inch Samsung, and that's what I use for when I'm tethered to that. And over here is my prop closet. And if you can see there, I've just, yes, I can go over here. Back here is most of my lighting. Here, everything from Mardi Gras beads to a head, crepe paper, rope, Play-Doh, whatever I need to add color. Dollar store is a wonderful thing when it comes to me shooting my macro and my close-ups. It's just something else to add to the adventure and something else to add to the elements of the photograph itself. I think, yeah. Let's go away with that. Just refocus that back there. And now I want to touch on, does anybody want to take a break or anything? Am I talking too much or what?
I think we're good.
Okay. I'll get a drink and then I'll carry on to where I was at. I'll bring myself back into view here. Go ahead and ask any questions because I'm getting set up for the next thing. Can everybody see this photo right here that I'm moving around? Rick, can you see that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Looks like a lava rock or something.
Okay, there. That's exactly what it is. And this is not close up. Well, it looks kind of like close up, but it's not close up. But it's a very good example, and that's why I picked it. Of stack shot. This is done with a tripod, and it was in the observation parking lot on the east side along the highway of Craters of the Moon. They have an overlook area. And I found this, and I shot it particularly for photo stacking for another project I was doing, but it still stands out as an excellent example. And if you notice in the down left-hand corner, I'm going to expand this all the way out so you can see it. In the far down left corner, that's in focus. The rest of it is gone, okay? But as we start moving along on the shots, now this was all hand done. Like I said, when I first started out, you just move the focus ring, take a shot. Move the focus ring, take a shot. That's how this was made in the middle of the parking lot. You'll see it as it goes along, right? Now the down left corner is completely out of focus. There's a band running from top left to almost down right that's in focus, right? But we keep going, keep going, keep going. Almost at the end of the lava rock that I'm shooting, but you'll see the one on the far right-hand side near the top is starting to come into focus. It's a completely different rock. And there's the end of my rock right there in that shot right there. And obviously there's still something behind it with the green. And I decided to take that into focus too. And a lot of times what I'll do is I'll shoot past my desired focus. You'll see, right, if you can see my mouse going around there, it's That's the next rock way farther back, right? This photo is a stacked version of what I just showed you. Now, something that I can look at and I can say, damn it, and it'll happen to you. If you try this, it will happen to you. I guarantee it. It's not a case of if, it's a case of when. And if you can see my mouse, Rick, can you see my mouse moving?
Yeah.
Okay, right here, it's out of focus. Right there, I missed a step because I advanced it too far. Now, if you didn't know what you were looking for, and if you weren't a pixel peeper like I am when I assemble these, you probably would never notice. One of my photos that got a blue ribbon at the fair years and years and years ago has one of these bloopers through the middle of it, but the judges never saw it, and I'm not going to be the one to tell them. But it has a soft zone in it, and that's just the way it is sometimes. We'll pull that out, and let's see. Let's go to.
Hey, Robert, quick question.
That's the feather shots. I'm not going to do anything with. Well, I'll show you the feather shots real quick. I'll just bang through them real quick, because it takes too long to assemble it and run it, and that's just going to be explained here. This is a near focus point of that feather, and I'm going to show you the feather closer up. Oops. I guess I better move my camera out of the way. There we go. If you see right there, I'm going to try to hold it steady. The very soft stuff at the very base of the feather, that was my focus point for all of these shots that I'm going to show you now. And I'll show you what, and this is how many shots I took of it. I think I did 2 sets or 3 sets here, but I'm just going to bang through these really quick. You'll see stuff and see how this is with the air conditioner off. And I'm going to roll through these fairly quick. There's another set that I did. Now, if that's these hairs on here are finer than the bee's leg, than your human hair, because this is just that tiny fluff. Call it down, call it whatever. This is just a little leg of it. You can see, and I believe that's the end of that set. Oh, right here, over here is, I decided to get that in there too, but when I go to edit these, I'll probably pull that out and not show that.
Quick question for you, Robert.
Sure.
I notice on this particular shot, we see some heavy duty vignetting around the corners. Is
Yes.
that what happens when you get a huge,
Magnification.
with your extension tubes and your
Yes.
blows, and pretty
Yes.
soon you can't cover the entire sensor?
No, it's not a case of covering the entire sensor, because the entire sensor is that. This is the edge of the lens. That vignetting is caused by the edge of the lens, because it's pulling it in so tight. Yeah, that's something that has to be edited out, or affected however you want to do it. I mean, you could run after aftershot vignette to counteract that, or whatever. If I'm shooting just with my MP65 on my camera, and that's without all of the other gear attached in line, the bellows and the extension tube, I don't get the vignetting with the MP65. When I start getting my 5X and 6X, well, I should say 9X over and above what the lens can do because of the bellows, then I get the vignetting. And there's altogether in this folder is 559 photos. So I'm not going to show you every one of those because most of them look like this because you're moving to another focal point, focus point. But again, I've learned not to, I would rather have overlap than underlap, so I won't get that soft spot. I've learned my lessons, so to speak. There's that stack. Oh, here's this. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4. Those are millimeter marks. That was the photo I was trying to find you earlier. That's 35 millimeters is from top to bottom, or is it wide? No, it is wide. 35 millimeters is left to right. But 1, 2, 3, 4. That's how close it is. 4 out of 35 is about 9.5. I'm getting a 9.5 resolution on my camera with everything that I've got built in there with the bellows and the extension tube. This is what it's like with the extension tube and the bellows. This is a 1X version with the bellows on there. So it's from the right to the left, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.5. So it's 5.5 instead of 4. And that's just with the MP65 down at 1X with the bellows still fully extended. Let's see, we've been through those.
I asked this a minute ago, but I'm not sure you heard me. MP65, is that a lens? It's not one I'm familiar with.
It's specifically a macro lens. And there's no such thing as autofocus on it. It's a manual focus critter. And it magnifies from 1 to 5X. And that's all it's good for. You can't take it outside and shoot anything with it because there is no infinity on the lens at all. When it gets a foot away, maybe as far as a foot, the focus is gone. It's only designed for very close up and macro photography. So yeah, and it's about 800. I think it's about $800 now. So yeah, it's just invest. Show of hands, everybody sitting there. Who's had edamame, right? The soybean fresh that's been cooked, and then you pop the seeds in your mouth out of the fuzzy seed pod. Well, these are the hairs on that fuzzy seed pod. There we go again, just doing anything. Okay, now, has anybody ever seen, I hope so, these little pellets that you hydrate and you use in a vase, and they help keep whatever flower is in the vase moist? And what these little, they're almost like seeds, and you drop them in the water and they expand out to I don't know, 5, 10 times their size. That's what this is right here, right here. And this is a shot I did last night. And here we go with, I don't know how many shots it is, but right there is the last one. And that's what I'm going to set up and show. Let's see, I think I got 1, 2, 3, 4, looks like about 8 or 10 shots, 8 or 10 pictures in there. And I'm going to show you right now what that does. Okay, Rick, wish me luck. This is where I share the screen again here. Screen 2. Screen 3, there we go. And everything should be disappearing except for,
Yep, looks like you're in Zarine's stacker.
okay, beautiful, that's what I wanted.
We can see the stacks.
Okay, now that setup that I just took, this looks like it might be a different set. It probably is a different set. So there's, you see me clicking on each photo. Now this is the software this is Zarine Stacker, whereas there's 2 or 3 other stacking software. Adobe Photoshop, I believe, does a stacking software. Lightroom doesn't. I can't, the other one escapes me right now.
Helicon Focus.
Helicon, there we go. Thank you, Rick. And what you do is, because all of these photos oops, here we go. All of these photos that I take, those are Canon CR2 photos, raw photos. Zarine Stacker cannot handle a raw photo. You have to convert everything into a TIFF, which is one of the steps that I left off getting to this point right here with Zarine, is I did a batch conversion and turned them all into TIFF photos, right? Non-loss TIFF photos. They're 100% and they're, I don't know what size they are. They're probably 20, 22 megabytes. But what you're going to watch with me, just made amazement. Zarine Stacker does 2 types of stacking, and don't ask me the difference between the 2, but they have it's a different algorithm they use to stack photos. And what we're going to do right here now, in front of everybody, is I'm going to say, align and stack both. And what this is going to do, you'll see it's going through the photos on the left, and as they get processed, it's pulling the in focus parts into the photo on the right. And this is a contrast threshold, and usually I start that at about 50%. And this is the second algorithm it uses. Now, if you'll see in the lower left-hand side, there's 2 photos that it produced. One is a P max, one is a D max. And I'm going to expand that. This is the D max version, and this is the P max version. Now, other than the vignetting, which is not as bad on this one, and it is on that one, you'll see some subtle differences in the, I'm going to bring this up zoom-wise. And right now, that's 150%. And then switch between the 2. And you'll see the subtle differences between the 2. And I usually go for the sharper one. I'll usually set both of them and ask it to do both of them. And then I pick the better of the 2. And how I decide the better of the two is I'm going to go back down to there and fit window. Fit window. Here's the exact same size again. Okay, now if you'll notice on this photo, which is the PMAX photo, we're getting some nonsense down here right at the bottom. You'll see the green banding. That doesn't necessarily mean that this is the worst photo. When you advance your photo, you make a big, let's see, let's go between this one and on the left-hand screen, go between that one and that one. If you'll see, it varies in size also. Notice that? One of them is bigger and one of them is smaller. And that's because when you're doing the focus tag, you're actually getting closer on the near photos in relation to your camera and your sensor and Zarine Stacker, and I'm sure Helicon takes that into account. But you end up getting some artifacts. If I would have done the feather, there would have been all kinds of depth artifacts between the two. And with the feather, you can take hours, and I'll show you what that entails. Edit, start retouching. And if these artifacts, now a lot of times in this example, if I were to use this, I would just crop it because I shoot over and above what I need to shoot. Larger than, I leave myself croppable space because I know it's going to enlarge as the the subject gets closer to the lens. In other words, you get that enlargement. I know that some of that has got to be cropped away, but if it has, let's see, we are at near focus. Let's go to far focus, which is that one. And if you'll see the it's hard to tell, but this came out pretty clean. If there's the aberrations or that, sometimes they'll be right here. If you can see on the upper right-hand corner of this photo, on the photo on the right, you'll see a whole bunch of little dots right there. If you can see that, there's some more in here. I don't know if you can see my cursor changes when it comes over the top of the photo because I'm in edit mode. But that's caused by dust on your sensor or dust on your lens. And so every picture that it takes a picture of that, and then when it assembles it, if you see right, maybe let's get out of that mode. Edit, cancel. Let's go back to Zoom. I've got that right there, and should show up right there. Okay. Now, if you see me circling with the cursor, there's one little dot there. Right, I'm pointing at it. And right here are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9 little dots. So that means that dot is a pinpoint of dirt on my lens, on my sensor, whatever. But you can that's where I was going with this, is when you edit and you start retouching, you can go to the first photo where it's only one little dot, and you can remove them all, because this is the only picture that has that dot in that location. And then you can go to a different photo in the set where the dot is in a different location. Right here's the dot on the left-hand photo. Here's the dot that is the dirty little guy, but it's not around on the right-hand photo. On the right-hand photo, that dirty little dot is right there. So if I just click, if I miss the dot on the left and I surround the dot on the right, poof, it's gone. And that's how you can do some of the correction in Zerine Stacker. I like to do probably a lot of it in there, because then I can find out if this is a set I want to keep or not. And you can save this as usually a huge file, because it retains a whole lot of information from every photo that you used. So instead of in my case, my Canon takes 22 megabyte photos. This ends up being probably a 60 megabyte photo. Let's see, what else did I want to touch base with? I think that's about everything that I wanted to touch on. Questions, bring them on. If nobody has any questions, then I want to see some wonderful, wonderful photos the next time we meet, or on Facebook.
Yeah, is there have you noticed a file size difference between the two options in Zerine Stacker?
The file size options?
Yeah, or using the two options, either the PMAX or the DMAP.
Oh, you know, I never looked. I don't know. I just know that when I save, you know, I could do that right now, and oops. No, nah, it's going to take too long to do it. Let's see if I can.
If you needed a smaller file for any particular reason, does Zerine allow you to flatten the image and not save all the layers?
It's a flat image when it comes out of Zerine. It's a TIFF image.
A single TIFF without layers.
Correct. But it's a much larger file. Let's see. Let's find. Oh, well, here we go. Let's do information on here and. Size. And you can still see this screen, but I'm going to bring that over. And the sizes on the TIFFs, on the stacked images, range from 205 megabytes down to, let's see, that's 29 megabytes. So yeah, so that's all the stacked images I have in that folder, and I just sorted them out by size. And like I said, there's I'll show you. Oh, this is a stacked image, and it's also a composite image because I took one photo and took a stack shot of it, and then I combined it. So that's why that is 205 megabytes. That's a quarter of a gigabyte photo right there. So Dmax and Pmax, just right off the top, those are 2 kilobyte difference between a Dmax and a Pmax photo in that folder.
Okay.
Pmax and Dmax, yeah, about the same size.
Yeah, nothing significant then as far as.
No. I think that I covered just about anything and everything. I could go into god awful detail about any number of steps here, but I'm not going to do that tonight. If anybody wants to talk to me one-on-one about it, you get to buy the coffee.
Couple other things I will mention. Harold has been doing some interesting things with macro lately, and has written several blog posts that I very much recommend. That you should be able to hunt up.
I second that.
I've also done a number of articles on macro.
Oh, that's what
some alternative ways of doing it. One using what's called the reverse lens technique, which the beauty of which is you can do it dirt cheap. You can get an old film lens, doesn't even have to be a kind that would mount on your camera. And by using a reversing ring, you can use it to do macro. So there's articles on that too. So we got a couple people in the club that are dipping their toe in the water in macro. A lot of good information, and all of us do it a little different. So,
yeah. Harold said in the email, or was it a Facebook post? I don't know. Said that he talked to me for 15 minutes and he found out stuff that he hadn't tried or done, and now he's gonna, because he didn't know about it before. And it's like, that's great. I mean, here we go. This is what the club's all about, is learning from our friends. So questions, anybody, obsolete, off the wall, this doesn't have necessarily anything to do with it, or who cuts your hair? What, anybody? No? Did I put everybody to sleep?
If you need to speak, you can either probably find the unmute button down in your bottom left corner, or you should be able to just hold down the space bar like you would a key on a walkie-talkie, and that'll temporarily unmute you.
Now, if you want to really eat up your hard drive space and your camera's capable, start focus stacking pixel shifted images.
Yeah, there you go. Yep. I can't tell you how. Yeah, they just, 5 pictures is a gigabyte. That's when you start stacking photos, and I've got folders that I just had to quit moving them around on thumb drives because these folders were too big to use or to mount on there. Okay, I'm back into main screen now.
I'm curious if you or anybody else has done anything that goes beyond macro into micro photography, and maybe has some type of adapter that you would hook your camera to a microscope. Anybody done anything like that?
I haven't. I've thought about it, and it's just like, no. I get fascinated enough with just macro and very close up. It's a small world out there, and I think if you got to fine or to micro as opposed to macro, I can still say some of the stuff I create is art, or it's interesting, like Harold's fly, right? that's neat, but I don't know if I would want to get a picture of a pathogen and you know, and try to present that as art. I know that's more I want to say medical world, you know, or science world, and I don't want to go there. I'm happy with macro, and like I said, the macro I'm shooting is up to 9x magnified, so, and that's probably about as far as I want to go with it. Yeah.
Can you talk about why you use constant light instead of flashes?
I want to see in live view what I'm doing, focus wise. That's basically the gist of it right there. With natural light, not natural light, but fixed lighting, I can see my whole program developing in front of my eyes, as opposed to wait for the flash to go off.
Since you're using a 40, you know, a big monitor for a live view output.
It's a television, not a monitor.
You know, a TV. Yeah, not too much difference anymore.
Well,
do you use focus peaking on that, or are you just doing strictly by eyeball?
strictly by eyeball. Yeah. The thing with macro photography, one of the things with macro photography is you can get a flat shot, right, and do macro. You can, what was it? Washington's Nose, or that blue ribbon. Did I just bring that up? Can everybody see that?
Yeah, you showed that earlier.
Right.
What I hear you saying is that if you're shooting flat field type objects,
Right.
things on paper, coins, stamps,
Right.
things
Well,
like that,
you know, even
it makes it a whole lot easier.
right. Yeah. So, and that literally is the gist of macro. It's how enlarged, magnified you can make it. The other element of it is the stacking. You can shoot flat all day long and get interesting stuff. Yeah, see, all of these are flats here. Well, that's not. But macro is one part of it, and the other part of it is the stacking. If you want to shoot the depth of B's eyeball, you've got to do the depth, and so that's a whole nother thing you get to learn while you're learning magnification. So, yeah.
Here's a question that's related to that, maybe, Robert. How would you decide that maybe it's better to shoot a stack at f8 versus either no stack or a very limited stack at f22?
This goes back to the whole story about lenses. They have their sweet spots, right? That's part of it. My 100 millimeter, my Canon 100 has a sweet spot around 6.7, right? And that's when it seems like the best photos come out of that lens. If I go up to 22 with that, it's the whole thing is soft when I bring it. I mean, it's a whole lot of in focus, but it's just a softness. When I'm shooting up really, really close with that same lens, and most of the time the 100 is the one that goes out in the field. This MP65, it stays here. I don't take it out. There's just absolutely no use for taking that out. The 100 millimeter, if I'm shooting up really, really close, it it can be pretty sharp, but again, if I'm really, really close, my depth of field is pretty narrow. So,
You start
and-
running into diffraction limits on lenses.
yeah. Some of the lenses, because you're shooting so close, require a whole bunch of light, even at f8. So you can't be shooting at 1.4 if your lens is capable of doing that. I usually try to shoot around f8 to f4. The MP, I still play with that because it seems like I get funny results with some items and different results with other items, right? Difference between a flower and a marble, right? It's how much you play with it, and that's what I love to do, is just play with it. So, yeah. Anything else? No, we've got.
Okay.
Robert, this is Josh. No question, but thanks for the presentation tonight. It was very
Sure.
interesting.
You know, I'm glad I had 16 people left.
Yeah.
Your motorized rail and bellows is making my inexpensive rail feel less than adequate.
You know, I used a forward and backward rail for years, literally years. I've only had the stack shot motorized rail. I want to say 3 years, and yeah, and the bellows. That's the bellows is a completely different animal. They're two separate animals. One is a Novoflex. The other one is made by Stack Shot, and they're Novoflex is a German company that makes these bellows for the different higher end cameras. I'm going to say, if I can be so generous as to say, my 5Ds are higher end cameras.
Yeah, back in the 60s, you used to be able to pick up T-mount bellows units
Oh yeah.
that you could put on any camera and either use a T-mount thread lens directly on it or use an adapter for just about anything. Unfortunately, those are long gone. Yeah. I've got
Oh.
one that I used to use when I was shooting film with an old Vivitar 135 millimeter preset that as long as you were in the center of the image, you were fine.
Yeah. Yeah.
So Robert, you think a manual rail is just is an adequate starting point for somebody coming
Oh,
in
absolutely. Absolutely.
and lasts quite a while, I guess.
You know, when it comes to what I think is the most important thing about shooting high magnification photos, and this may sound odd, but I think the most important thing is to have a solid surface. And that means I lived in a place for a while to where it was a concrete floor, but it had a carpet on top of it. And I could scoot, if, you know, being a clumsy old fart like I am, I could scoot along that carpet and it would jerk the tripod and it would cause a mess, right? And then I tried walking softly and the carpet still moved and it would cause a little bit less of a mess. And it got to the point to where it's just like, the camera's moving, I'm not. And that is probably, if you get your rail,
You're not touching the camera. You're touching the rail.
you're not touching the camera. You're just quietly and carefully turning that knob a 1/16 of an inch or an 1/8 of an inch.
They have increment markers on them, don't they, to know
A lot of them do, but increment markers are relative, because if you're shooting at f8, the markers are going to be different than if you're shooting at f16. You know,
Yeah.
it's all a case. It's all a case of practice, and that's what the rail will do is teach you to. Okay, if I'm shooting at f8, I can only move it this far. If I'm shooting at 16, I can move it this far. If you're shooting a close-up of a flower, which is a close-up, not a macro, and you're shooting it at a foot away, you can bump it up to f8, f11, and your depth of field a foot away or a foot and a half away from your camera is going to be much more than it is if it's 2 inches away from the front of the lens. So, you know, you have that consideration in there to take into consideration. Yeah, the movement is the biggest thing with a rail. Find out if you really love to do it. If you're going to do it, find out if you really love to do it. Start off with a rail. The rail can go with you, or you can sell it later or whatever. If you buy this chunk of equipment that is a lazy man's way, but man, it makes life so much easier than sitting there just hour after hour after hour.
That's the one thing I would mention is macro. You will either learn to love it because it's very meticulous,
Yep.
and for some people that's relaxing, or you will learn to hate it because it's very meticulous and you have to really fiddle with it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, my roommate, not roommate, the lady I sublet from in my second to last apartment, she was just totally blown away at some of the results. But she'd be getting ready for work at, she'd get up at 6:30 in the morning, and I would be piddling around still shooting sets. And she goes, I could never have that much patience. Never, never, never. And it's just like, man, here I am. I love to do it, yeah. But in that same regard, I couldn't go micro. I don't think I could go micro and enjoy it. But then again, you get me outside and I'm shooting wild horses. So, meh. So.
I just posted a link in the chat for those of you who can see it to one of my earlier articles on reverse lens macro. And
Yeah.
I would very much endorse that as a cheap way to dip your toe in the water and see if it's for you, because you can literally do it that style for, I would say, under $20.
Yeah, you could probably get a lens at a pawn shop or eBay or whatever for a reversible lens, like you said, for less than
$5. And then you can go
yeah.
buy a reversing ring for about that and you're good to go.
Yeah. That's one thing I didn't touch on because I never went there. I went from the 100 millimeter close up to my extension tubes, to longer extension tubes, and then it's just like, okay, I'm past the 1x. I was getting into 2x with the extension tubes and stretching those out. And then I went MP65, and it's just like there's no turning back now. Hundreds and thousands of dollars. So yeah. But get your feet wet in it. Yeah, if you like it, you'll love it. If you don't, you'll go. I'm going to go shoot horses. So yeah. It's 8:45. I've done my time. And again, if anybody wants to talk about it in depth, right? Any part of it, give me a call.
Harold, if you're here or anybody else knows, pipe up. What are coming attractions? What do we got next week?
Yeah.
I don't have the calendar in front of me, but I know Josh is coming up soon. And if people really want to know what is coming up, is go to the Boise Camera Club calendar, and we are keeping it updated, and that's the accurate place to go.
Yeah, it looks like it's projection night with Shane next Thursday.
The more important aspect is that some time ago, I committed that we're going to have Thursday meetings for the first 4 Thursdays of each month, just like we had
Before.
become accustomed to, and that's what we're going to continue to have through the end of the year.
Good on you. Yeah.
And Rick, you will send me, I see you're recording this, so you'll send me the recording, and if it's okay with Robert, I'll send that recording link out to all the members.
Yeah. Yeah.
Fine by me. Fine by me.
And you'll have to watch for that because it will also include a passcode. And we typically don't post that out on Facebook because normally we don't want just anybody and their dog who comes across our Facebook page to be able to get into these.
Yeah, dogs are such critics. Foundation of something, Urban Street Photography, Projection Night, No Thanksgiving, Abstract Photography into December. December 10th, you don't have anything. Christmas slideshows on December 17th. You've got them pretty well booked, Harold.
Nothing on December 10th yet, but we will.
Christmas slideshow, we're going to have to be inventive, but maybe we can find a way to post those out to YouTube and then have a watch party. I'll have to think about how we might pull that off.
Yeah.
So there is one odd meeting on there. We have a presenter scheduled for 5:30. Lisa Langrel, I'm trying to find